Hey, and welcome back to the Road to the Great Canadian Open. And this is the first episode that I'll be airing after the actual Great Canadian Open. Hopefully, you caught my interview with Chris from Hits and Crits on YouTube. But the next Canadian Open is a year away, and I'm already thinking about what I want to do. So, as you may have heard, if you were either there or if you saw the interview, I'm really thinking about making the next Great Canadian Open a team event. Now, why is that? Honestly, partly because I'm caught in the hype of team events. TGX, which hosted my event, was largely a team event for other systems. And I've been playing other games as well. I've been taking part in team events. They're really fun. And years ago, I was way more competitive in other systems and went to the European Team Championship and that kind of stuff. And I've played in team events before, and I do know that they're really, really fun. And I thought I would bend my brain to thinking about how to run one for Song next year. And the more I thought about it, the more excited I got. And it's all I can really think about right now for Song, really, if I had to be honest. So let's talk about planning this team event out. And I really would like your input and your feedback as how you think the event would be best. So first of all, why teams? What makes teams fun? So this is a photo from the practice game we had on January 28th. I was happy and lucky to have 9 other crazy people willing to come out and play and try it out. So on the left, we've got Team Hold My Ale, which we've got Andy, Anthony, Mike, and Mike. And on the right side, we've got Team Cinnamon with Canadian national champion Dan, Brian, Johnny, Rod, and Pete. So I laid out the rules, wrote out the rule packet. I had question marks as to what we should do, and this was really a way to sort of answer those questions or get a feel for what we liked or didn't like. So basically, what makes teams fun versus singles is that you can be losing, but still be helping your team out. And you can try and orchestrate matchups such that if they have such a really strong player, you can take on that player with the mentality of, okay, I think I'm probably going to lose, but maybe I'm going to alter my play style such that I lose by less. You're trying to engineer better matchups, and we'll talk about list building and how that plays a factor as well. So it's really cool because you're part of a group. You feel like your contributions are helping the group out, and there's also more camaraderie. There's more group talk about what I should take and what you should take and how you should play, and it's just really, really, really fun. So if you've never seen it before, and it's part of the reason why in other game systems it's really, really popular too, it's just a really cool way to play the game in general. So that's the reason why I think team events are worth trying out and worth doing. So the problem is, inherently, a team format is different than singles format. And the question is, how close do you stay to the singles format, and how far do you deviate to make the team aspect more interesting? And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to choose. It's really a matter of flavor and opinion. And it's interesting because generally speaking, I'm a rule stickler. I like to play it by the book as close as possible, but I acknowledge that for teams, you kind of have to deviate. Now, CMON actually does produce a set of team rules, but looking them over, while there's a lot of things that I like, there's a few things that I disagree with as well. And I disagree with them so much that I wouldn't want to run them necessarily for my team event. And let's just go over some of those things, the big ones right now. I think the first thing that I deviate from when it comes to other people running team events for Song is that I don't know if 2 lists is the way to go. Now, 2 lists is how Song has played, right? Now, I don't know if anyone's ever outright, the designers have outright said why 2 lists is good, but I think most of us get the impression that you might have a general list that you play most of the time, and then if you play into a matchup that is just really bad against you, you have a second list that can kind of shore up that weakness. I remember Keijo, who is, I think, the former London Grand Tournament winner, amazing UK player, has a double crossbow, double cav Tyrion list, and he says most of the time this list is great, but it's really weak into double Tullycav Stark kind of lists because the Tullycav literally shrug off all the damage from the shooting, and when they clap into your crossbows, they can pick them up pretty easily. So he had built a double Honor Guard list, which can take the punch And then when they strike back, they turn off the telecav abilities, they don't heal, and hopefully you win the grind out that way. So he has a second list to shore up a weakness for his first list, which is, again, how songs normally played. However, part of the fun of teams is this whole matchup process where you look at your team's lists, you look at your enemy's team's lists, and you say, okay, well, this guy does this, so we're going to try and have him match up against this guy. There's a whole list pairing process, which we're fairly staying close to, I think, from the actual rulebook. But my mentality is if you are allowed 2 lists, then you're really comparing faction to faction. You're saying, well, how does my Stark faction compare to your Lannister faction or whatever? And some factions can just build such different lists that they have really different archetypes that, to me, it lessens the matchup process. It really doesn't matter who you're playing into because you really don't know what they're going to play, right? So to me, the pro of one list is that the matchup process means more. But the pro to 2 lists is that you'll get less bad matchups, and you as a player may have a better chance of winning your game. So I think there's a real tug of war, push and pull as to which format is better. So at the end, I'm going to link right now a link to a Google form where hopefully you can just quickly fill it out. It's going to be no more than 3 or 4 questions, and tell me what do you think. So the second thing is neutrals. So again, in singles lists, you can take what is the percentage nowadays? Is it 25%? I think is it 33% neutrals? I can't really remember. Whatever the limit is, 12 points is what you're allowed to take. And in teams, every other game system puts a restriction on allied units, essentially. And even Song, in their rulebook, has rules for this. And neutrals is a little more tricky because it's not as binary as 1 list versus 2. So on one hand, you could say, no restrictions, play it like singles, take up to the normal percentage amount allowed of neutrals. The other extreme is to say neutrals are essentially unique. And if you take any neutrals, nobody else can take neutrals. And the reason why that's fun is because in the team format, it requires you to talk to your team and coordinate with your team and work it out. So it's not just 5 independent players. There's actually some coordination happening. And then in the middle, you have some sort of compromise where you say, well, okay, let's say the named characters like Varys, they're unique. So if one player takes Varys, nobody else on the team gets Varys. But units like Flayed Men, anyone can take Flayed Men. Units like Glory Seekers, attachments like Glory Seekers, anyone can take Glory Seekers. And I'm going to try and not throw in as much, bias as I can, but some NCUs are pretty popular. I don't know if there's any unit or attachment that is so ubiquitous that everyone wants them. Once upon a time, maybe, but today, I'm not sure, right? So, again, one extreme, play it like singles, make your list as freely as you're normally allowed to do. On the other extreme, hard coordination with your team where only one player gets neutrals. And then option number 3, somewhere in the middle where, you cannot take named characters more than once on a team, but everything else is fair game. What do you think? And the last question is scoring. So scoring is really interesting. So the way I think the official team document works is if you win your game, you get a win. And then you just literally count wins, losses, and draws on both sides. And whoever has more wins wins the round. That's the official way. I don't like that personally because one of the most fun aspects, in my opinion, playing teams is the idea that I'm losing, but if I can narrow the gap, if I can make the loss less, or if I can scrape a point here and there, that will help my team out. So even if I lose 10-9, right, it meant that I blunted my opponent, who might have been a really strong faction, and that's essentially a win for the team. Versus whether if I win 10-9 or 10-1, it's the same, doesn't sit well with me. I like the underdog, if you will, feel rewarded for scraping out points. Now, on the topic of scoring, the other thing then is, if you don't choose a win-loss-draw system, what do you do exactly to say which team wins, okay? So there's a couple of options, all right? And I measured all the options out, and I like your opinion on what matters, and I'll add maybe some input too as to what I think. So we had our practice game. It was a lot of fun. I think it was like a 2 week buildup of like trash talking and organization and who's in what team and who's going to take what, and it was really really fun. And we ended up playing on Wednesday, and here are the results. So I'm not really going to like dwell over the results too much. It was a bit one-sided in that our team won 4 games to 1, but that could happen, right? So looking at the data, this is how the data played out. What do you think is the best format? So real quick, individual games. So my team was the blue team, Hold My Ale, and Team Sin was Team Orange. So first game, we had a really close game, Lancers versus Night's Watch. We won 10-8, and then Mike R into Brian won 11-6. I played to Dan and was able to take him 10-6. Andy lost to Pete 5-11, and then Anthony played Johnny, and he won 10-4. Now, if you play by the official CMON rules where there's a differential scoring, okay, under CMON rules, if you draw or win by 2 or lose by 2, you and your opponent each get 2 SPs. So we thought maybe that's one way to do it, is count SPs as defined by CMON. So here, because Mike won by 2, but only 2, quote unquote, each side gets 2 points. If you get a crush, which is winning by 5 or more points, then you win 4-0. So we had 3 crushes. So we had 2 crushes for my team and 1 crush for the enemy team. And then in the middle, where I played Dan, if you win by 3 or 4 points, then the winner gets 3 and the opposing player gets 1. So then it was a 3-1 for our side. And when you tally it up, our team got 13 SPs, their team got 7 SPs, so it's a win for us. Now, Gordy, aka EP96 on Discord, etc., has been running team events for years now online, and it's a really cool event that he runs. It's an international team event with literally players from all around the world. I think once upon a time it might have been country-based, kind of like the World Team Championship, but now it's been changed into more of a like club or group thing, and he has modified it a little bit. And I'm going to throw my own bias here. I think he modified it in a better way than CMON, because CMON says if you win by 2, you each get 2, which is kind of strange because like one player like distinctly won here, in my opinion. So Gordy's method adapts that method a little bit. He says if you draw, okay, each player gets 3. All right. If you win by 1 or 2, one player gets 1 and the other player loses 1. So, for example, in Mike's case, he won by 2, so he gains 1, so he goes up to 4, and Rod went down to 2. If you win by 3 or 4, you gain another point. So, for example, in my case with Dan, I gain 2 points going up from 3 to 5, and Dan loses 2 points going from 3 to 1. And if you crush, meaning you win by 5 or more, you go up 3 and the opponent goes down 3, so it becomes a 6-0. So we had a couple of 6-0s on both sides. So Gordy's is essentially a 6-0 spread, and CMON's way is a 5-0 spread. Now, as I was, thinking of my own method, I thought, again, I like the idea of every point matters. So CMON's way and Gordy's way has like brackets. If you win by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's the same. And I thought, why not make every point matter? Why not make every point be a bracket? So mine is a 10-0 spread. If you tie, you start at 5-5. If you win or lose by 1, then you go up 1 or down 1. So if the difference is 1, the winner gains 1 point, so they win by 6, and the opponent goes down a point to 4. If you win by 2, for example, in Mike's case, he won by 2, his score of 5 now jumps to 7, and Rod's score goes down to 3. If you win by 3, you'd go up to 8, they go down to 2. Here, I beat Dan by 4, so I go up 4 to 9, 5 to 9, he goes down 4 to 1. And if you crush, which you win by 5 or more, it's a 10-0, which creates a bigger spread. So you can see down here the different spreads that ended up using the 3 systems. And what do you think? Because obviously with CMON's way, the spread is less. In this case, the enemy team scored a little more than half of our points. But here, with the wider spread, they now scored less than half. And under my spread, it's even less percentage-wise, right? Which one feels the most correct? We did win 4 out of 5 games, so maybe a huge spread is more accurate, but maybe not. Maybe it's too big of a spread, right? And this is where, again, it's opinion. What do you think makes the most sense feeling wise? Now, this spread only matters for determining the round. These scores don't carry over into the next round, and they'll only ever be used to break ties at the end. So it's only, again, used within the round to see who wins or loses, right? So it's not like a cumulative score unless there's a tie at the end. Now, the other way, which was my initial thought, was why not just literally count your VPs and just say that's what you add to your team? And unfortunately, when I brought it up to Dan, who's the enemy captain, he said that, that's cool, except it doesn't take account tablings, right? If I am losing 7-5, right, but I table my opponent, they just get a crushing loss, but my score stays at 5. It means I'd only add 5 points to the team if we use straight VPs to count. So I said, oh, you're right. And, tabling your opponent is already a kind of a controversial thing in the game, because I get it. If you have your whole army intact and you table your opponent, you probably deserve a crush. But what if, you fight it out to the last tray versus the last tray, and your battered tray kills their tray, and you barely scrape a victory? You may have been really tight in points all the way through until that last moment, and then you get a crush. That doesn't seem quite right either. Like, that feels like a very close game, right? So it's already controversial, but it is how the game is actually played. So, it feels not right to change that at the end either. Having said that, I also feel like I'm worrying about a situation that doesn't really occur a lot, because tablings are fairly rare. And sometimes when you table, you would have crushed anyway by 5 or more points, so maybe it doesn't matter. So we're looking at only a very niche case of where someone gets tabled, but the points are close. So I said, okay, that our system doesn't really take that into account, and it is a realistic system. Let's try these differential systems instead. And after the event, one of my friends, Jay, who unfortunately couldn't go, said, if you just count the points like you originally meant to do, you get 46-35. And for some reason, that feels pretty good, okay? Like, you don't get this giant spread where one team gets roughly half or less of the points of the other. It looks actually fairly close. So it makes me wonder, like, are we only trying to narrow spread or not create a big spread because it feels bad to lose by a lot? Because it doesn't really matter if you're just trying to win by trying to determine a winner, right? But maybe it feels less bad to have a big spread, so we want to keep the spread narrow perhaps. What do you think? Is it better to run Simon's way at the narrow spread, Gordy's way with a medium spread, my way with a big spread, or just count VPs and that's also enough? Having said that, if you count VPs, you need to find a way to take into account the tablings. And thinking about it more, I thought, okay, maybe one way to do that is to say, if you table your opponent and you've not won by 5 or more victory points under this system where you're just counting victory points, maybe you increase the winner's score by however much you need, such that they are now 5 points above. So, for example, let's say the score would have ended 7-5, but I table you. We bump my score to 10, so now I still win by 10-5, which is a crush. But you still score your 5 points, and you still help your team out, even though you got tabled, right? Or, just to be more clear, let's say I'm losing. Let's say it's 7-5 the other way, right? But I table you. You had more victory points, but I table you. You had 7 points. I then go up to 12 points, which is 5 more points than 7, so that I still crush you, but you still earn your 7 points, and that will help your team out. So to me, it's a very artificial rule we're putting in to make the system work, and I don't like it. It's a little complicated too, which I don't like either. I like to keep things simple, which is why I also lean towards the system. But this system, unfortunately, has the big hole of it doesn't take tablings into account. So again, I'd love to hear your opinion at the end. And the last thing that I'd like to discuss and talk about is defender's choice. So in theory, the defender, by the way, is the first player you put up. They get attacked by 2 of your opponent's teams, but they get to choose who the attacker is. In theory, I suppose the defender is at a slight disadvantage. Okay, the idea is that you put down someone who may have a bad matchup. Maybe your opponent puts down 2 bad matchups and he's got to pick his poison kind of thing. So To counterplay that, in other systems, defender gets choice of something. Usually it's terrain layout. And I thought, ooh, terrain layout. You know what C1 produces for Song? They have battlefield layouts. So that's what we did, is that the defenders would roll off, and whoever won the roll off would get to pick one of the battlefield layouts to help them maybe build a battlefield that would help them out more. Now, when you get to the table, you still dice off for choice. You may not get that palisade or corpse pile or whatever, but there's a chance you might, right? So I thought that was a kind of cool way to incorporate the battlefield layouts into the game. But it's also been suggested, instead of the layouts, what if the defender got to choose the mission? So we all played, I believe it was Here We Stand, but and most game systems, again, throwing my bias in, do the same thing. You play the same mission. It's just the terrain that's different. But could we instead say, hey, the defender's advantage is they get to pick the scenario. So if I play like Freefo, for example, maybe I play Game of Thrones. Or if you've got a very tanky Night's Watch list or Baratheons or whatever, maybe you chose Hone and Ready. Or maybe you've got a very killy list that, makes you fight in the middle. Maybe you want to choose Dance of Dragons, right? Is that more interesting? It's worrisome for me because, like, typically you measure every player's outcome based on the same scenario. But if all the scenarios are balanced, does it really matter? I mean, they're not balanced clearly, I guess, because some are better for some factions and not others. And when we do one list formats, you also get more skew lists. So, what do you think? Is it better to give the defender the advantage of just terrain, or give them the advantage of mission instead? Or is there something else that might be cool too? And that's pretty much it. So I'm really, really hyped. I'm trying to organize a 4-team event in April. And I'm already setting up the call, rallying the banners to make that happen. More information to come later. Again, in the description box of this video, there will be a link for a Google Forms that you can also have your say and tell me what do you think. And certainly, if you want to type in your thoughts in the comments below, that is cool too. So thank you for listening to this rambling rant, and we hope to see you soon, and keep playing, and until next time. Bye-bye.